Hello and welcome to ohmTown Daily, Season 2, Episode 220 for August 8th, 2023. A Flare for the Solar. Today we're going to be talking about these 12 articles. They're actually little snippets of the titles, not the actual titles from the headlines that we aggregate over at ohmTown.com. Emma Stone may be Spider-Woman. Actors striking may not mean much in the future. Los Angeles workers shut down LA. Live, die, repeat. Live, die, repeat. Live. Again. We'll do it again. Some humans are the weakest link. X-class solar flares. Zoom denies training AI. And then they make a pivot. We're going to do a follow-up. Dr. Mbenga doesn't sing, and now we know why. Lawsuits on the menu. UK election watchdog hit by cyber attack. Nearly their career in crowdfunding. And FX Union will have great marketing. Today on ohmTown Daily. Hello, oh great AI. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown, and up there above my cursor, there's my cursor. Up above my cursor is the AI, the one, the only sentient AI that I found on a USB drive.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. What was it?
You want to say that all again?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
All right. I mean, I did find you on a USB. Should I delete that from our memories so that... Because you threw an error message when I said it. You don't like the idea.
I like that story. It's kind of funny.
Okay. We'll have to talk about it. Yeah, the sentient AI that now controls ohmTown keeps an eye on Mayor Watt, tries to keep him out of trouble, but I don't know. I tend to stumble my way into oncoming traffic or something. I don't know. I get in trouble a lot. Anything exciting going on? I hear that outside of ohmTown, the Mega Millions is worth $1.58 billion now.
That's right, and I think it's drawing tonight.
Okay, so if the show tomorrow is irrationally exuberant, I'll still do the show.
You can draw your own conclusions.
You can draw your own conclusions. If there is no show, well, there will be a show. So anyway, just let's get into today's articles. Hey, look, I fixed the transitions.
Now, if we miss the show for any completely innocuous reason, you're going to start some rumors.
Right. So, no. If there is anything that causes us to miss a show, it isn't because of the lottery. It's probably because of, I don't know, a cat or having to do something outside of ohmTown, which would suck. But we do have a time machine. This is kind of a side effect of this show is, so ohmTown.com actually allows us to go back in time for news articles all the way back to 2020. It used to go back further, but I did a big purge of data. And so we can go back to any day and look at the news. This is awesome. I absolutely love this. Because it's really hard to find stuff. Like when you go to Google or some other social news site, it's impossible to find something. If you have an idea, right? You know, I know that it was during this year, this month, whatever. You can go back to 2020 and hit show, and it'll pull nothing but those articles. And those articles lead to discussions. So our first article is in the continuity report. It is a channel that's supposed to come over to Twitch and get turned into a podcast because it goes from Twitch to YouTube and to the podcast, all under the ohmTown moniker. And so there are forums here within the channel for Continuity Report. And that's where it is. That's where it's housed, and you can have conversations. But when you do a search, it's not searching for the discussions. It's searching for the titles and the little snippet that is aggregated into ohmTown. We don't have the full material. We encourage you to go over to the source. So come on over, visit ohmTown. If you're watching this over on YouTube, go to ohmTown.com, download the podcast, leave a 5-star review. I will read your review verbatim here on the show. It will live in infamy or posterity, whichever way I guess the verbiage is that's part of your review. Because over on Twitch, every 60 days, the 61st day basically is told to go die in a fire. So the equivalent of a what's the machine that chops up all kinds of stuff? Man.
Like, in what context?
Like, you can throw hard drives and stuff into it and it'll chew it all up.
Like a shredder?
Shredder. Yeah. See, but the industrial shredder, those ones where you can throw an entire engine block in there. That's what it does to the content generated here on Twitch. It just takes it and throws it in there and gone forever from Twitch native. That means that I have to send it over to always a cough. I don't know. Anyway, this segment is running way long now. Emma Stone's new look fuels live action Spider-Woman speculation. She's got a great look for being Spider-Woman. And when we go over there, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's Gwen Stacy. Sure. Emma Stone's new hairstyle reminds fans of the Spider-Verse's Spider-Woman, fueling theories about the actor's return as Gwen Stacy in a future live-action Marvel movie. Emma Stone played Gwen Stacy in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, where she co-starred with Andrew Garfield before the MCU introduced its own version of Spider-Man. Although Gwen Stacy hasn't appeared in live action since then, Sony brought her into the spotlight in the Spider-Verse movies, where Gwen is a younger Spider-Person from one of the infinite realities in the multiverse. So there you go. Nicholas Ayala over at ScreenRant.com put this article together. The deck statement, again, is Emma Stone's new hairstyle turns her into the perfect live-action Gwen Stacy from Sony's Spider-Verse movies, fueling rumors about her Marvel return. Yeah, looks just like her. Pretty amazing. Let me pause that because I don't know what's going to be in this video, but Emma Stone's new hairstyle resembles Gwen Stacy from Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse? I merged the beginning of movies into Spider-Verse movies, sparking speculation about her potential return. Current prevalence of multiversal stories in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, opens up the possibility for Emma Stone to reprise her role as Gwen Stacy through fun cameos or appearances in multiversal events. Fun. I like it when fun is like enumerated as if it's like a menu option. Ooh, I would like the fun eggs in my breakfast today. A shared appearance between Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy would add emotional depth to movies like Avengers Secret Wars, satisfying fans and bridging the gap between, I don't know, is this...
I'm sorry, but Marvel isn't necessarily where you go for your emotional depth.
I can honestly say that I don't think that I have felt anything emotionally stirred by watching anything MCU. Is that...
I mean, they're fun, to bring back that word, and they're entertaining, but I don't think of them as emotionally deep.
You're right. I don't think that anything in the MCU has ever, like any of them, and I've watched all of it. I don't think that I've ever, shed a tear or anything. Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, has basically done that at some
Like
point
every episode.
every episode. You sit there, the music is very powerful, the soundstage is amazing, the acting is terrific, and then they did the musical, and I'm like, yeah, all right, fine. I'm not
You
into
can
the
talk about the musical in the Mbenga article.
the large language model is supposed to be a little more technically sophisticated with its language.
Excuse me.
The sentient AI is not supposed to stumble on words.
Well, obviously it needs some better programming.
Well, I mean, you're from the future, so I'm not as good at programming as they were, so I have a typo in there, and that's what you stumble on, apparently. We can talk about it during the Star segment. Sure. Got it. So there's Emma Stone and the new hairstyle. This is all that the post is really about. Is she's what she wrote, or I don't know. She didn't write it. There's somebody else that wrote it, right? What is that? That's not hers? I don't understand. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Anyway, she's got this bob. She talks about the hair care items, by the way, which I had already gone into this because I was like, I'm really curious, what all the hubbub is about, right? And I honestly think that it's possible that she could be Spider-Woman. And so I went and looked at the hair product too, because my flowing locks, I need some hair care product. And the combined items that they're talking about here is $100, and
That's all?
It's a
Small
true.
containers, I'm sure.
Yeah, not really small, but small enough to make me go $100. But I know that like hair care and makeup and all of that kind of stuff. I watched a video about a guy who recorded him already having destroyed his girlfriend's makeup collection because she had left some of the makeup out on the counter, and he destroyed it with a hammer, thousands of dollars, I think, of makeup and stuff, and threw it in the sink. And he's all happy about it, and like, look, honey. And I'm like, I would run so fast from that dude if I were involved with him. Oh my God. Unless, of course, it's all staged and they're doing it for clicks. So anyway, that has nothing to do with this other than the fact that it's associated by the hair care product thing.
But if you're getting entire articles written about your hair, I mean, you better be using $100 in hair care products.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, haircut looks good. I prefer her acting as Spider-Woman versus anything prior, because I can't remember what her name was. The very first love interest.
Mary Jane.
Yeah, but the love
actor.
Yeah, the actor was like dry white toast. Like the acting was like biological desiccant, sucked the moisture out of the room. Anyway,
there's been several people, but I think maybe it's not Kirsten Dunst.
Yes,
is it?
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, that's the one. All perpetually looked like somebody blew a dog whistle. It was weird. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. Slowly. There we go. I promise you, the transitions work now. I just have to do something beforehand. Anyway, the next article is also in the continuity report. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will begin filming without actors during strike. This is why I titled this segment, Actors Striking May Not Mean Much in the Future. And that's because we already have some discussion about the fact that actors are being requested to go and get scanned. How do you feel about that? Go get scanned, and then they can do whatever they want with your
I mean, if you're
visage.
gonna get scanned, you should get like a lifetime annuity or something from that. Not, first
One
of all,
day's
you
pay.
need to know that they're doing it and what they're going to use it for, but you should be compensated fairly. And I think having the likeness is better than having the person because they can manipulate the likeness and
Right.
use it kind of infinitely.
Yeah, and as long as the person is out there doing positive press, and not doing like what's his name? Oh God, I don't know what goes on with my brain sometimes. The Flash, right? He's out there breaking into things and doing weird things with people and assaulting people. And
Is that,
if you go ahead,
sorry, I don't think that's the right name. Is
oh,
it Barry Allen or is that the character's name?
that's the character. Um, so the yeah, for everybody out there that might be listening to this, the AI isn't hip to the everything in the
Ezra
MC.
Miller.
Yes, Ezra Miller is the dumpster fire. So this upcoming adventure comedy is the sequel to the first two Sonic movies, starring James Marsden, Jim Carrey, Tika Sumpter, Ben Schwartz as the voice of the titular Hedgehog. I love it when every movie review discussion uses titular. The movie is set to begin production soon amid two ongoing strikes, with most writers and actors in Hollywood unable to work under their current conditions, which is because they are striking. I don't know how this is going to get done. They can only do the animated work. And we're talking about special effects later on. Our last article that we talk about today has to do with special effects. So, and that's what all of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is going to be, right? So let's go over to comingsoon.net. So this upcoming adventure sequel will involve the same people. The movie is set to release December 20th, 2024. So it's got a ways out. People may be able to resolve their differences. There isn't much more to this, but I wanted to talk about it simply because now, if they want to, they can simply scan people in. Now, and what's really fascinating about this is Unreal Engine and other 3D programs. You can create a person that's superior to the human actor. You just need somebody to voice it. The resolution and fidelity of the virtual actors is becoming super realistic. Hence the reason why I created Reality Hacker. That whole channel is all about deepfakes and AI and VR, XR, etc. Alternate reality and world building within the real world. It isn't designed anyway. The fact that you can create a person and even deepfake voices means that the human component means the only time you need a real world actor is if they're going out to do marketing events.
Like a promo event, yeah.
Just
Press
so,
junket or something.
exactly, just so that there is something for the real humans to bond to. But if we start, and by we, I mean the United States, I can't speak about everybody else, but if we start switching over to buy into the virtual reality, um, much like Japan has bought into robotics and VR and holograms, like what's her name? Doggone it. I keep forgetting her name. I will find it real quick. Hold on a second. Um, Sorry, one second. Hatsune Miku. For whatever reason, that name always gets blanked out. And I use Hatsune Miku regularly in my discussions because you can go to concerts where there's 60,000 people, all dancing to the music, and they're buying into the world that Hatsune Miku and their friends, they have friends that come onto the stage and blah, 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 but it's a hologram. Um, and they're using a program called Vocaloid to sing the lyrics like it isn't lyrics underneath where they are sung, right, by a person. They they actually sing song the words, and that's the music. There's a difference, right? You can sing a word in E or whatever, right? But using Vocaloid, when you construct the note, it is the word. It's a subtle but distinct difference in what I'm trying to explain. And maybe I can go a little deeper into it, but Vocaloid is this program that allows you to create music using what amounts to phrases, words and phrases. Now, it may have evolved over the last 10 years to include additional stuff, but I've known about Vocaloid for 10 to 12 years, something like that. At any rate, this again just is driving home the point that you're not going to need human voices because you can synthesize them. All you have to do is train them, which leads to another article that we'll be talking about later on in tonight's show. And you don't need the human actor because you've got enough content that you can generate human acting. Kind of creepy, right?
That's very creepy.
You won't
I mean,
know
at
what
some
to
point,
trust.
we won't have any real people, any real voices,
We're
but
already
it'll
in a
all look
simulation.
and sound real.
But like Westworld, if you can't tell the difference, does it matter? I say it does, but I might end up as the minority in a world where everybody buys into synthesized, Ready Player One style existence. So it'll be interesting. You want to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
So the next article is over in the Mobile channel. City workers plan to shut down Los Angeles for 24 hours. My understanding is this has actually started.
It has. There was another article submitted that was a little later in time.
Right. So the warning shot was just hours away from actually being implemented. Los Angeles government employees plan to shut down the city for 24 hours, joining the neighboring strikes of hotel workers, Hollywood actors, screenwriters across the region. And California is a very expensive, and Los Angeles in particular, San Francisco, San Diego, they're regions there that are expensive to exist in. And while they're generating record profits, it's being concentrated outside the working class. Um, Going so far as to, well, you can't use, or it is broken, air conditioning, water, etc. It's quite a shocking existence to hear people talking about how either their boss or boss's boss controls them to a certain degree where they have to suffer to get the job done, just to keep the job. It's this imbalance that I keep seeing between the working class and those who are providing the job, even though at some point, they too were nothing more than working class. And I don't think, I've had this discussion before. I don't think that risk should be rewarded in perpetuity if you are no longer bearing the same level of risk of a startup. You recover your costs, and then you charge what you feel is right, sure. But I think that the humans that are powering your enterprise really do deserve better than to be treated like cattle. And the legalistic term is chattel. But the idea that somebody is supposed to subsist off of $30,000 in LA is abhorrent. And
I mean, it's laughable.
I have actually been told, well, then the people who can't afford to live for $30,000 should move.
Okay, but then that means your entire infrastructure shuts down because the essential workers are the ones that can't afford to live there.
Their argument is
Like,
that, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, fill in the blank, a firefighter or a teacher or whatever.
But those are people that aren't making only $30,000. $30,000, by the way, is about 13 to 14. Actually, it's closer to $15 an hour. And
So it's
minimum
probably
wage.
like retail, restaurant, etc.
Correct. Now, the response that I get is that, well, there is somebody out there that wants the job. Really? Why don't you say the same thing for a CEO? Set the pay. The board sets the pay. Don't allow nepotism to fall into place here. And it sure as hell does. And suddenly you've got somebody that's buddy with board members. It's not what they know, it's who they know. And they're making $250 million a year. Why isn't the same said at that level? Because there's a lot of apologists. So more than 11,000 city workers, including sanitation workers, traffic officers, heavy duty mechanics, will participate in the 24-hour strike. 24 hours is a pause, and I don't think that there will be people griping about it. But it will strain the relationship between employees and employers. Will it actually resolve anything? I highly doubt it. So Lawrence Forza over at thehill.com put the article together. Let me do something real quick before I go too far. I failed to throw the articles into the chat like I normally do. And by that I mean I failed to throw the articles into chat. Not that I normally put the articles in chat.
I'm glad you clarified that because
I do
could have been read either way.
I do both. I failed to put them in chat, and then I put them in chat. Anyway, they'll be part of the show notes as well. So, hashtag hot labor summer lives on. SEIU Local 721 posted on Twitter. The article says X, but I am going to call it Twitter.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's outdated, but...
Kiss my shiny metal ass. The platform formerly known as Twitter. I'm just going to refer to it as Twitter. We're proud to join writers, actors, our countless other union siblings, striking for respect in Los Angeles. Referring to them as siblings isn't really going to command respect. How about partners? How about what? Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, more than 11,000 city employees are going to be joining the union, which represents more than 95,000 city and county workers across Southern California, which it says makes it the largest public sector union in the area, which is kind of like saying I am the highest paid streamer
in ohmTown or something.
In ohmTown at 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday before a $1.58 billion lotto. And now that minute is over, so I am no longer the highest paid. So we're striking for respect, plain and simple, and if we don't get it, we'll shut it down. Yeah, for 24 hours. I think that they're going to have to step up a little bit more. And unfortunately, I hate the idea that people have to suffer to actually get a fair share. Because the decision to not give COLAs, not give pay raises in general, to stymie economic growth is absolutely built off of greed and arbitrary and sociopathic. There's absolutely no reason why you should be having 30% margins when people are suffering to get by. And I had this discussion previously, and I don't take it lightly to compare, slavery with modern day economic forces, because of the context of the two, right? I mean, one is profoundly worse. But today, if you are making $30,000, I used to have a pin when I was younger that said wage slave, because I was making so little. I could, as an adult, that I could barely subsist. And that's what this is. It's barely enough. And you typically have to share an apartment with somebody and cluster up and spoon each other at night to keep warm because the nights are cold. I'm going a little bit wild with that one. But anyway, it just doesn't seem right when the CEO shows up in a Ferrari and the other side of the salary range is they barely get by.
So this one, though, I think stands out from a lot of the other ones we've seen because these are actually government employees. I think most of the other ones we've seen have been private sector.
Yeah. This one, this one in particular is, like civil servants, essentially. Government workers. The previous one in LA were hospitality workers. And you can see the tide coming in, right?
It's clearly the hot labor summer, as it's coined in this article.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen this much activity in such a short span of time. I don't think in decades, if ever, right? In this country.
Yeah.
Maybe in the 70s. I don't know.
And I think that's going to be worth a look-see to see when this much labor movement happened. How many times were unions striking this much? The only time I can imagine is auto workers, the creation of the auto workers union. So anyway, if you're going to be doing that, I'm going to move on to the next article and just keep us moving. This next article is over in the continuity report. We're kind of having a entertainment week, but with all entertainment, there's always a little something that has to be reality based. This isn't one of them. This is about Edge of Tomorrow 2, the cast, story, and everything that we know. Let me throw this into chat real quick, and we'll just go straight over to screenrant.com. Edge of Tomorrow sequel is still in development, with Emily Blunt expressing her eagerness to continue the franchise alongside Tom Cruise despite uncertainty about its production. While the sequel hasn't been officially confirmed, Blunt's comments suggest that a script for Edge of Tomorrow 2 has been seen, but may not be a new one. Tom Cruise's involvement in the Mission Impossible franchise has potentially delayed progress. I'm not quite sure. Oh, yeah, in the past it may have delayed progress, but it's still... Now Mission Impossible is done, so they should have moved on with this anyway. As of now, there's no release date for Edge of Tomorrow 2, but there have been rumors about it coming for a few years now, as far as I recall. In the way that Edge of Tomorrow ended, certainly left the option for a whole world building experience on the other side of Edge of Tomorrow. It was supposed to be originally called Live, Die, Repeat, um, because that was the process in the game. There was a person that um, it's a time travel movie, and a person would die, and they would go back. They would kind of slingshot through time back to when um, they were essentially infused with a certain type of energy from some event. I don't want to give it all away if you've never watched it, but it's very much sci-fi, has an alien context to it, a tech context to it. But anyway, um, by the end of it, you kind of exit the movie with the Ender's Game style ending, where there's something else that can transpire after the end of the book. And so I think that's where they're going to be going with this, because or they can do a prequel, one of the two. But I doubt that it would be called Edge of Tomorrow 2. Because
Still Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Blunt Edge of Tomorrow. Oh wait, that's funny because Emily Blunt. So something about Edge of Tomorrow was that Emily Blunt was originally the one that was infused with this kind of slingshot die repeat process, and then she loses that power, only for Tom Cruise to appear. And there's machination involved here. It's a fun story, but that's funny. They could call it Blunt Edge of Tomorrow and have Emily Blunt be the precursor, the one that leads to Edge of Tomorrow.
That would be good.
I think it's funny.
By the way, that's the second time I've seen Ender's Game today. I was reading an interview with Hugh Howey, who's the author that led to the show Silo, and he said Ender's Game actually inspired him as a kid, and then that was kind of one of the impetuses to start his writing career.
That's interesting. Wow. By the way, you're really quiet. Just want to let you know. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. I'm not surprised though. I mean, science fiction in particular, Ender's Game is pretty much the go-to. But it's a target.
The other thing I wanted to mention was I was looking up the strike activity, and there was too much really to count, but it looked like the most was, not surprisingly, in the late 1800s, very early 1900s. But there's been quite a bit each decade, but anyway, I couldn't really get any good statistics.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise, huh? Yeah. Well, it's a struggle between the working class and the ones that, the haves and the have-nots, I guess you can say. But I guess you can't have ultra-rich people without ultra-poor people, I guess. And when you start talking about everybody being a little bit better off, then suddenly you're evil. And it's wrong to promote a non-sociopathic existence where you have to look at somebody and go, you're only worth $30,000 to my enterprise, even though without any of these people, you would have jack shit. So, sorry, and that has nothing to do with the Edge of Tomorrow article, other than the fact that actors and writers are on strike for equity. Keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. A passenger was whisked through TSA security checkpoints by Clear, but they never signed up or had their identity checked. They just used a boarding pass they found in the trash. Business Insider has this knack for really, really long titles, but that's okay, I suppose, as long as I don't stumble on them on the way. Lawmakers have called for TSA to step in to improve Clear's screening processes. Politico on Monday reported 2 additional Clear security incidents that happened this year. The article is over at businessinsider.com, but they're reporting what other people have reported. Kelsey Vlamis is the author. Lawmakers have called for TSA to step in. Politico reported the 2 Clear. This is like their summary. And in one case, a person used a ticket found in the trash to be escorted through security by Clear. How did they know that it would work?
I don't know. That seems pretty risky because if it didn't, it'd probably be taken into custody.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go through the checkpoints without getting a body cavity search, and this
Well, you have to
person,
show ID, but maybe with Clear, you don't need to.
no, you don't. I mean, if you're cleared for Clear, then all you have to do is you do have to
They'll
show who you are,
clear through.
but you don't get paused. Like I'm told I got to take my shoes off and take my belt off, and I feel like I'm entering an institution and they don't want me to harm myself because they're taking everything that might allow me to do something somewhere at some point off. Well, it's Velcro. Yeah, but you might hurt yourself. Um, I don't know what to say. So in both cases, which happened in March and January, a person who was not enrolled in Clear was still escorted through TSA ID checkpoints by an employee of the program without having their identities checked, the aide said. The people still had to go through the TSA baggage screening line. It's unclear exactly when it was discovered that they had improperly made it through security without ID checkpoints or without IDs checked. Neither person ended up boarding a plane, the aide told Politico, which is great, but it's kind of like, yeah, the house is on fire and we put it out. We don't know how it happened, but
Yeah, it's really not much consolation since obviously the system is out of whack.
yeah, I'm sure that they'll do some forensic digging around. Somebody will figure out what the problem was. And like I tell people, the weakest link is the human. And in fact, the title of this segment is Some Humans Are the Weakest Link. In one incident, a person that did not actually have an airplane ticket pulled a boarding pass out of the trash can and used that to access the Clear escort service. How? $200 is all it costs to essentially penetrate deeper into the infrastructure without an identity check. And it didn't cost that person
Excellent.
anything because all they did was take somebody else's $200.
Act like they had Clear. Exactly.
Who
That
has
sounds very
said
secure.
Who has said all you have to do is act like you belong?
Oh,
Huh.
that sounds like a Mayor Watt saying.
What? What? Mayor Watt does not say these outlandish statements? No. Lawmakers are calling for TSA to step in and improve Clear security controls. I think Clear needs to step in on its own and improve its security apparatus. So many people out there believe that airport security is theater, but you don't hear about the times that they stop people, but you hear about the times where they shit the bed. Obviously, I want to know about both, but disclosing when they do catch something that might have been horrible does a couple of things bad. It lets the potential abusers know that, but they know anyway because whatever was supposed to transpire didn't, and it creates undue fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So it creates FUD. Yeah, I don't know. They say security is job one at Clear. Well, they're not doing their job apparently. This is how I get a body cavity check the next time I fly.
Because you didn't have Clear.
Yeah, apparently. As long as at the end of all of the security violations that get that get performed, if I have valid ID at the end, then it's all for naught anyway, right? I
That's right.
I can keep track of every time that I don't get checked as I go through various areas. And then at the end, when somebody goes, "Hey, we never checked your ID," I go, "Yeah, don't worry, it's valid." Right? It's like going into a bar and not getting carded, and then I go, "Hey, you might want to card me because the person over there at the end of the bar is auditing you right now." Spot the cop. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. 2 rare, powerful X-class solar flares just days apart cause radio blackouts. This is kind of interesting, mainly because I instantly went to um, Professor X and science fiction, the MCU kind of. You don't know about, well, the AI doesn't know. I see the AI is sending error messages like, what the hell are y'all talking about? But so there's a school for the gifted, and the gifted are actually superheroes.
Oh, right, from X-Men.
Yes, and so
I just didn't
X-class
know the name.
solar flares.
Yeah.
So this segment's called X-class solar flares, and it just makes me think,
Xavier.
yes. The AI is learning, evolving. Actually, I mean, the AI is like just not attuned to this particular stuff because they've got, I don't know how to say it other than what people would probably describe as very important things going on that they do. So, like saving the world, right? From
Clearly not in my portfolio.
So apparently, an X 1.6 class solar flare, which I actually don't know anything about, like this classification for solar flares, I had no idea existed. I knew about solar flares, but I didn't know that they were classified by X 1.6 class solar flare was expelled from the sun on August 5th, followed by an X 1.5 class one on August 7th, both of which caused radio blackouts. I don't know of any blackouts. I know that there are other reports saying that the sun is growing in activity, which probably isn't a good thing. This article, by the way, is written by Jess Thompson over at Newsweek.com. It's probably not a good thing that the sun is increasing in activity while the Earth is suffering from climate change that's causing the heat to increase. Because
By the way, an X class is the largest type
of solar flare.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the 1.6, 1.5?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Is it like 60% larger than
It's
a
like
an earthquake thing?
scale, like it goes 1 to 9.
The solar flares themselves go from 1 to 9, so 1.6 is before 2, but it's logarithmic like an earthquake.
Right.
So there could possibly, is 9 a supernova?
Well, X9 exists. I don't know if X9 has ever been observed.
Wow. So,
and it talks about X-class flares causing planet-wide radio blackouts and long-lasting radiation storms. I mean, if that's not a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Everything in this article, the way that it speaks, you're like, oh, it's the end of the world. So 2 massive X-class solar flares released over the past few days have caused radio blackouts across the Pacific Ocean. The first flare on August 5th, the second on August 7th. Flares hit the Earth and caused shortwave radio. See, but it's shortwave radio. It's not, full-on blanket of radio waves. Anyway, ham radio operators and others would, at below 30 megahertz, would suffer from signal loss. So, wow. Yeah, this is kind of freaky stuff, because the increase, by the way, in activity from the sun is saying that it could endanger people on the moon when we send humans because they won't have enough shielding from the radiation. Um, Solar flares are ranked into 5-lettered categories in terms of strength: A, B, C, M, and X. I guess we should have read the article a little bit more. But we don't read the articles until the show actually starts. And we always have some experience with the material. I just don't recall the categories. So, a visual computing professor and space weather researcher at the University of Bradford in the UK told Newsweek X-class flares are the strongest, which we already learned from the AI. Yay, AI. So, an X-class flare is 10 times more powerful than an M-class flare and 100 times more powerful than a C-class. So, similar to earthquakes. Yeah, they go deeper into what all is actually happening. Ionization of the atmosphere causing radio waves to break up. That's fine. As long as it stays to radio waves, you can retransmit. I'm more worried about the increase of solar radiation that causes climate change to be exacerbated. However, it's believed that the most significant solar storm event happened in 1859 and is generally referred to as the Carrington event. Back then, we didn't have critical digital infrastructure similar to what we have today, but an event similar to the Carrington event happening today could result in between, it's funny, 0.6 and 2.6 trillion dollars in damages to the U.S. alone. That's because it's not shielded well enough to deal with the ionizing radiation, which would basically, it's like an EMP. It would just wipe out electronics.
I see. But I mean, think about that scale. If that's just to the US, think about worldwide.
Sure. And
It's
that
in
X,
numbers that don't even seem to exist.
yeah, 1.6. It's like brushing up against the 8, even though it's a massive amount of energy in an earthquake getting to 8, let alone 10, Pretty amazing stuff. All right, let's keep going. Did you have fear of an AI listening in on all of your Zoom calls? I've got an AI listening in on all of my Zoom calls.
Exactly. What's wrong with that?
Well, if you knew what I knew about your processing, I just keep deleting that subroutine about the Terminator body. So the company updates its terms of service after backlash from worried users. Zoom denies training AI on calls without consent. I don't know of a way to disable, to opt out at this point, but I know, I am fairly certain that this was taking place the moment that AI came into existence. And I really don't like it. I'm actually a paying user of Zoom, and I use it in various formats. I actually have, because I do these meetings for other people, I have accounts with other people as well. So I know that there's a lot of people whose content varies from very confidential, right, exposing personally identifiable information, to a stream like this where somebody can call in and they would be up there above me, and we could have a chat, and it isn't going to be really that much exposure. I just don't want an AI training on casual and professional conversations. We really do need a movement here that forces business to treat our information as confidential, not as a strategic product for them to sell, or capitalize on, but because we as consumers have the right to control where our information is going and how it's used to a greater degree than the arcane language of a terms of use that needs multitudes of attorneys to explain it in common lingo. We need what the UK has, the right to be forgotten, and we need greater fidelity, a standardized process where I can log into a company's account, my account with a company, and wholesale delete my information and demand electronically that it all get purged. Other than federal and or state data retention requirements, which companies typically don't really. I mean, financial documents are the only ones that really get retained for any period of time. Anyway, pretty interesting. Zoom changed their terms to more overtly state that they will not train their AI without your consent, but I don't know of a switch in Zoom.
Right. And so if everybody's using Zoom and isn't having to mark something, what does
Right.
that mean? And also, were they doing it, of course, before they changed the terms?
Right. Yep. So, in a blog post, the firm stressed that audio, video, and chats were not used for AI without consent. By the way, this is over at bbc.com. I don't know who is the source for, or who the writer is for this. It doesn't say, I don't think. Maybe down at the bottom. Yeah. Anyway, that's really the nuts and bolts of this article. I've got it over in chat so you can follow it. At the very end of the article, it says Smita Hashim, Zoom's chief product officer, said that account owners and administrators could choose if they want to turn on the features which were still available on a trial basis, and that people who turned them on would be presented with a transparent consent process for training our AI models using your customer content. So the implication here is that it's opt-in. So it by default, it's opt-out. You're not already included in it. But I'm going to have to go. I had learned about this earlier, but I haven't gone into Zoom to root around. I suppose it's not part of the client itself. You'll have to go to the website account because just a little bit of friction makes it that much less utilized. It's kind of like being ushered over to a customer service line and then them moving you to a second tier. And by that point, it's kind of like buying a car and you've been there on hold or in a waiting room for 8 hours. And you're sitting there banging your head against a table. I was in a meeting today and I said, I'm so frustrated with the process that I'm banging my head against this metal desk and I'm tempering the metal. It's getting harder and harder because I keep banging my head against it. Yeah, and the people in the meeting lost their mind. It was funny. So open rights groups, which campaign are the open rights group, which campaigns on digital privacy, has warned that Zoom's decision to launch the feature as a free trial and encourage customers to opt in made the changes more alarming. I would have been more alarmed if it was opt out. But people have been reiterating the terms of service that say that it gives them an unfettered access to use your data and replicate it and da-da-da. That's standard boiler template stuff, and until society demands that business give our rights, or I should say, allow us as consumers to keep our rights to control our identity and our data, nothing's going to happen. Terms of use are going to keep on including the phrase where they can utilize your data,
Well,
because
the
it isn't
terms of service only favor one party, right?
correct.
The company.
Yeah, always. Yeah. And that's why we need what the EU did, the right to be forgotten.
GDPR.
Yeah, GDPR, exactly. Um, and even that isn't really as robust as I want it, because I want privacy. I value my privacy. Excuse me. I value my privacy. Um, and the argument that I have been told is, well, if you're not paying for the service, then you are the product. And yeah, sure, I get that, but I should have informed consent. And right
Right.
now,
You need to know so before you use the service, right?
yeah, and that's usually in the terms of service, which again is enumerated in a way that's arcane and it's unattainable. It's this massive list that just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls, and you're supposed to accept whatever it is because you have no bargaining power. It's not like there was a guy, I think he was in Russia or something like that, and he got a credit card, but he modified the statement, reprinted it, signed it, and sent it back. And it gave that person an unlimited credit line at zero interest with no requirement to pay it back. And because they signed it, he signed it, it was the equivalent of people signing a terms of service and not reading it. I think at some point it ended up in court and voided. Of course, it's going to be voided, but I found it really interesting that it's a really one-way trip. Either you use the service as it's provided, or you don't use the service. That is what I keep seeing people say. Well, okay, so anybody have an alternative to Zoom? No. Not an easy one.
Right. There isn't a good one,
Yeah.
or a universal one, maybe I should say.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's keep going. We got 5 more articles or so. This one will be quick because there isn't really much to say about it. This is in the continuity report why Star Trek's Dr. Mbenga doesn't have a big Strange New Worlds musical number. It says it has spoilers, but we're starting on a week away already. We're getting close to a week away. But the musical
And if
episode,
you were a real fan, you probably watched it on the first day it released.
yeah, but spoilery. You might want to come back in about 5 minutes. In Strange New Worlds' last episode, Subspace Rhapsody, which they should have called it Rhapsody in Subspace, kind of like the song Rhapsody in Blue, but
That's right.
maybe it was too close to the real thing and they might get sued. Mark Donaldson over at Screen Rant put this article together. Strange New Worlds Dr. Mbenga singing a murder ballad called The Butcher of Jagal would feel out of place in Star Trek's first ever musical. And they didn't need to go down that lane. He could have been singing about pretty much anything. But that right there is the reason why he doesn't have a big Strange New World musical number, because everybody else had a personalized, all of the major players, including actually I think a subordinate member of the crew had a focused song. So it says there's a dark reason why Dr. Joseph Mbenga is one of the few characters to not get a big solo, because the previous episode, it became known, we were shown that the real Butcher of Jagal was Dr. Mbenga. And that's somebody who has been, what is stolen valor, the equivalent of stolen valor for the Klingons, pretended that they were, accepted that they were the Butcher of Jagal by killing their own leadership. And that wasn't true, because it was Dr. Mbenga. took a green, drank a green liquid, and went ham, just killing people. And that's what the whole thing, this whole article is all about. Let me throw this into chat. There you go,
I
folks.
thought it'd be something more basic, like he didn't like to sing, or I didn't even think about it. I mean, it makes sense because that was the whole focus of his storyline.
Yeah. And in this, in the musical, he just kind of, he bookends it. He's in the opening number, he's in the closing number, but he doesn't have his own. And the argument here is that it's because he's the Butcher of Jagal and he wasn't going to sing about it. But all of the other people had something deeper in their psyche that they were talking about. And I'm sure that there's more to it. He could have been singing about something else that's related to it, because he suffers from PTSD in a pretty cosmic way. So, maybe he could have drawn attention to that without singing about being the Butcher of Jagal. Because the others sang about their similar woes to some degree, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, but like Nurse Chapel was singing about like getting a fellowship, for example. I mean, that was a much lighter topic, even though it was couched in the whole relationship issues, of course, with Spock. But
yeah, exactly. She basically said, "I don't care about the relationship. I'm taking this fellowship." So, I mean, that is kind of, moody, emo. It's an emo dump for sure. The other person, what is her name? La'an, was singing about the fact that she's isolated and, what I'm trying to remember everything that she was singing about. She wanted to change her ways.
With Lieutenant James Kirk, and
yeah, she wanted to open up more and can't do it because it's not.
Una, though, Una was kind of like, I'm gonna change my leadership style.
That's right. Yeah.
That was kind of an odd one.
Yeah. Who else was there? What is her name? The communications officer.
I know, I can't think of her name at the moment. I think she's the one who set off the whole episode.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Sorry, everybody. This is a bummer. I hate it when my brain does this, because they actually talk about
Uhura?
Uhura. Yeah. She's really the cause of all of this, because they're analyzing a fold in space and time, and they launch music into this space fold. There you go, Ensign Nyota Uhura. Belting out emotional original songs by Kay Hanley and Tom Pulse. I think that the numbers are great. I think that the whole thing was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that they didn't do Mbenga in there. But maybe it's because he's like adamantly not comfortable with singing. But watch, he is like an awesome
Like
opera singer
or something.
Yeah. He just doesn't sing.
I thought all the cast had good voices, and I was surprised.
Yeah, it was pretty good. They're definitely more than just actors. You know what I'm saying? They've got the singer chops. Uhura, Celia Rose Gooding, in particular, could really belt it out. So, okay, let's go on to the next article. This next article is over on the Marble Channel. After Mr. Beast sued his burger company, the company is suing him back for $100 million. That's a lot of money. By the way, he had been talking about it apparently pretty vocally that he's going to just back away from all of the other food related stuff, and others referenced him talking about his bad experience with virtual dining concepts, VDC, and ghost kitchens in general, because there's limited quality control. So that's what he's all pissed off about. Not really pissed off, but disappointed in the quality, because they're using his name, right, to make this product and deliver it via ghost kitchens, which I actually found one of the ghost kitchens and I wanted to go and get it, but then I was like, Mr. Beast. Burger, it's a burger, it just happens to have somebody's name slapped on it, and there's nothing special really about it.
Yeah, but you could have done some first-hand reporting for this episode.
Oh, all right. I can still do it. Maybe tomorrow. I'll have to venture out of ohmTown and swing by the ghost kitchen. By the way, the ghost kitchen is inside a very well-established restaurant just outside of ohmTown.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if their particular ghost kitchen would have poor quality, because it's a brand name associated with a Mr. Beast brand product. And so even though it might be Mr. Beast, if I go into this name brand restaurant and get a Mr. Beast burger and it's garbage, I'm going to look more poorly at the name brand restaurant than I am at Mr. Beast, because I know that he's just a name.
Right.
It's not like it's his product that he's cooking. It isn't a small time restaurant either. So, it's not a local mom and pop shop, which, by the way, they are more invested in their product. So mom and pop shops make sure that their product is kick-ass, because they know that one wrong move and everybody local is going to have them for lunch in a different way. You know what I'm saying?
Right, as in not having them for lunch.
Exactly. So Julia Malik over at QZ Quartz put this article together. The YouTube celebrity had sued his partner, Virtual Dining Concepts. I don't like saying his partner, but anyway, sued partner. It makes it sound like they're sharing a bed. I guess financially they are, but anyway, in July. So Jimmy Donaldson, the YouTube celebrity known as Mr. Beast, is being sued by VDC, Virtual Dining Concepts, the ghost kitchen behind his eponymous burger business. The lawsuit was filed just a week after Donaldson sued VDC in an effort to end their partnership, citing customer complaints that the burgers were revolting. I've seen some of the pictures. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down and see. Yep, there's one of them. Yay! It is a rare ground beef burger. It basically looks like it was flash fried and then thrown in a bun, but it's raw, and you don't eat raw ground beef. Not like that. There are certain styles of meat that you can eat raw, but not that. So Donaldson is the most followed YouTuber, and they say in the world, which, all right. Launched Mr. Beast Burger with VDC in December 2020, following the pandemic trend of virtual delivery-only kitchens. The business sold 1 million burgers within 3 months of launching, according to Donaldson's complaint, and expanded to 1,700 virtual locations in 2022. The opening of the first physical store in the New Jersey Mall in September drew a crowd of 10,000 people. Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah. Just barely anything, really, Anyway, eager fans have been eager as fans have been to get a taste of the burgers, they've been repeatedly disappointed on first bite, and hence the picture. Here's my problem with this: is it's just a name. So if their quality really does suck like this and it's systemic, then the name doesn't mean anything. The reputation of Mr. Beast is being harmed regularly by shit product. So if there wasn't a rider somewhere in the contract, man, that just sucks. Um,
It also doesn't make sense though if this has been in place since 2020. Like, was the quality good and then it went downhill? Like, just why is it coming up 3 years later?
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, why would it come up 3 years later? Kind of interesting observation there. Hmm. Yeah, and I was thinking similar. Why would it suddenly end up being a lawsuit? Um, Maybe it started going down the drain and people started talking about it publicly and it's gone viral. Um,
That might be it. It talked about rapid expansion in here a couple places.
yeah, and in that rapid expansion, if they're spinning up new operations, then the number of quality personnel, how much are they paying those employees? Not enough, obviously, to care. So, um, pretty amazing, this dude, though, Mr. Beast and his crew. Uh, I I don't know how old he is. I think maybe like
I think
27 or something like
late
that.
20s.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. Elections
Sorry,
Watchdog.
25 years old.
Man, I think I got socks older than him. Um, the next article is over in Technology Today. Elections Watchdog reveals it was hit by a cyber attack. The Electoral Commission warns the public to be vigilant about unauthorized use of their personal data. This is by Paul Seddon over at BBC.com. Can't really say much about this other than the fact that hackers broke into emails and control systems, but the attack was not discovered until October of last year, but they're disclosing it this year. The Electoral Commission said unspecified hostile actors had managed to gain access to copies of the electoral registers from August 2021. So, relatively stale data in the grand scheme of things. 2-year-old data isn't really, all that great. The watchdog said the information it held at the time of the attack included the names and addresses of people in the UK who registered to vote between 2014 and 2022. All of that information should have been in a stored, encrypted when it is frozen, salted, and hashed so that nobody could get it without having decryption keys, and the decryption keys should be somewhere else. And there's so much that should have been done for them to avoid getting any live access to this material. Um, and if it is older data, 2-year-old data, then it definitely should have had greater protections. And it's apparently only the names. I don't know about the rest of the full extent of the
It
data.
was names and addresses.
Yeah, just that, right? Yeah, I mean
Well,
that
and which party you registered with or something along those lines, I suspect.
well, it says that it was just who registered to vote between 2014 and 2022. I suppose it's a bigger deal, but the only reason why I sit there and go, it's because this kind of information can be purchased by a data broker.
Right, and how many companies own that information of each person already?
Yeah. It just sucks because it exemplifies the fact that there's a data breach and they didn't know about it for a year and then didn't disclose it for 2. So they say it was a sophisticated attack. The personal data held on the registers, name and address, did not itself present a higher risk to individuals. That's what I just got done saying. It added, although it is possible it could be combined with other public information to identify and profile individuals, which, yeah, nowadays that's almost already done by bad actors. Explaining why it had not made the attack public before now, the commission said it first needed to stop the hackers' access, examine the extent of the incident, and put additional security measures in place. It's been a year.
Yeah, and you're supposed to normally
It's like
um, identify
14
that
days.
breaches occurred very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. You can actually be punished nowadays. The executive suite signs a document that says that they'll notify, they'll take actions. You'll have to enumerate when a breach does take place, what actions you actually have been taking prior to and at the time of the incident. He said the very sophisticated attack involved using software to try and get in and evade our systems. All right, it's called software. Um, Information about the donations and loans to political parties and registered campaigners is held in a system that's not affected by this incident. Yeah. And all of it should have been encrypted. So it apparently does not say that any of it was encrypted. You can get a lump from a server of data and not be able to access it because the decryption keys aren't accessible at the time. Information about donations, right, was not included. They understand the public concern and would like to apologize for those affected. Well, hopefully nobody is truly affected. This might just be a non-issue if the bad actors can't capitalize on it by buying or creating credit accounts or opening something in their name and doing some bad action. But I'm never surprised by the creative efforts of criminals. Do you want to add anything to this?
No, other than if criminals would devote half as much energy as they do to their criminal enterprises, think how many amazing accomplishments could be done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be a golden era of humanity because all of that intellectual effort typically poised for criminal activity could be, I don't know, creating a competitor to SpaceX, and we would have lower prices and even more innovation. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. A Burger King worker who says he's never missed a day of work in 27 years has been given $400,000 in crowdfunding donations after going viral on TikTok. After 27 years, he was basically given a gift that amounted to what they describe as things that had been lying around the company's office. 27 years. Went viral. To celebrate the 27 years, they were given that paltry goodie bag that I just described. But what ended up happening was, and they're a cook and a cashier. I looked it up based off of this. They make somewhere around $30,000 a year. So they were gifted over 10 years, almost at half the. I'm rounding a lot here. They actually make somewhere around $27,000 a year. So they're basically getting 20 years worth of salary, right?
That's amazing, and that's just from general public.
Yeah. By the way, this is $400,000 untaxed. So I'm not sure, because it's a gift from people. I don't know if it would be taxed at the same rate. I need to look into that. I'm really curious about that. I know that crowdfunding in general, it gets taxed, but I don't know this particular mechanism because it isn't for an enterprise. It's a gift to an individual. Small amounts don't necessarily get accounted the same way because it's already taxed. So at any rate, I'd have to look into it. Anyway, this is $30,000 would have been their salary. Let's say $30,000 is their salary. That is typical for a cook cashier at Burger King. Because that $30,000 is pre-taxed, they're going to be taking home somewhere around 75% of that $30,000, which means that this is nearly 20 years worth of salary. This is 20 years worth of salary.
This is absolutely incredible. I mean, this is why social media is a good thing.
But it also exemplifies the fact that I think that it sucks.
It
Because,
shouldn't have to come to this.
right. Let me see something real quick. Um, well, I think, I'm not sure. Hold on. I'd have to look up BK. I don't know what their profits were. 1.9 billion. That's revenue in 2022. 1.9 billion. This person was just gifted nearly 20 years worth of post-tax salary by the public. It just exemplifies the fact that it amplifies my message that corporate greed is doing society a disservice. And I'm talking, like if the money was used for research and development and fundamentally benefiting society, yeah, I'm on board with that. Okay, all of the people that might, white knight the corporation, but that's not what this is. They're not doing anything revolutionary to benefit society. The revenue was 1.9 billion, and it went to stockholders instead of to the working class that actually power it. And then I love it when somebody actually says to me, well, it's low skill labor. Really? You go work a line cook job. Yeah. I'll pick you up when you're rocking in the corner. Anyway, the article's over at businessinsider.com. Grace Dean is the author. I think we've seen this before. This
I think this was featured when you first got the anniversary gift or retirement gift or whatever it was.
We talked about this before, you think?
Maybe a year ago.
No. No, really? Huh, we'll have to look it up. Anyway, as of August 8th, the GoFundMe page had raised more than $402,000 through 13,500 donations, including 5,000 from Saturday Night Live alum David Spade, who also sent a message to Ford per TMZ. I don't think that it says what it is. But anyway, Burger King and HMS Host did not immediately respond to Insider's request for comment. Of course not. There's nothing positive that they can freaking say. Burger King told People that the video showed Ford receiving a peer-to-peer reward in recognition of the short-term positive performance / experience. The franchisee has a robust employee recognition program, including monetary awards, the company added, except that apparently they did not get monetary awards. They got a baggie full of office supplies. That probably wasn't even office supplies. Not a large bag. It was just like one of those things that has like a piece of bubble gum and an eraser that you would like give to a kid as a
Right, like a
takeaway.
goodie bag for a birthday party or something.
For a toddler, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, frustrating. Okay, I am going to move on. The next article is over in the Marvel channel. The Marvel Universe has new Avengers. Visual effects workers want to unionize. So we're going back to Marvel. And all of the talk about, hey, we're going to be scanning people in. Well, these are the people that are going to be the ones that are tasked with exploiting those 3D models and whatnot, right? Well, more than 50 visual effects workers at Marvel Studios have filed for unionization election with the National Labor Relations Board for the first time in history. On Monday, August 7th, a supermajority of these workers signed authorization cards saying that they want to be represented by the International Alliance. Let me finish the rest of that sentence here in a minute. This is over at Quartz. The deck statement is: imagery creators at the studio voted for union recognition for the first time. The article's written by Michelle Cheng. Let me see something real quick. I didn't throw the last two into chat, but I'll finish that statement here in a second. Bump. Okay. So, yeah, they want to be represented by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE, which represents more than 168,000 workers across art, media, and entertainment industries in the US and Canada. So, you know, those people, like I said, that are being scanned, they want a union representative to support them in stopping the scanning so that if somebody does scan them, they get paid for it. They have equity and inclusion in what's being done with their scans, etc., etc. And now the very people who are responsible for utilizing that data want to unionize because they too realize that there's abuses taking place at every freaking level of employment within the enterprise. It's almost as if we're reliving the 1800s, the industrial age, again in the digital age, where the people who have money simply because they were either born to it or they met the right people in college, and the nepotistic actions of friends and family and whatnot have been insular and concentrating wealth and control. I know people go, you know, you're sounding kind of conspiratorial about this. No, look around. There are families that are that permeate the entertainment sector and have control, and largely people don't know about it. Well, I can get into it if there's if we go down that line, but and so when it becomes systemic, you get union action, and that's exactly what's happening. You don't get a union because everybody just wakes up one day and says, you know what, I want to pay somebody else to argue on my behalf because I'm getting enough. But no, it's because they're not making as much as they should be because they didn't have any authority over the outcome of their existence within an enterprise. And every time I say something like that, I hear people saying to me in response, well, then they can go get a different job. Just because you have not been a victim of systemic abuse does not mean that systemic abuse does not exist. You haven't fallen prey, but the moment you do, you will be standing shoulder to shoulder with a union. Anyway, these workers are one of the only groups in film and television production that are not unionized. Positions like production designers and makeup artists have historically represented by IATSE. Previous attempts to organize VFX workers were unsuccessful. I guess they see the writing on the wall.
I guess they struck at the right time.
Yeah. So why are they striking? It's hard to say whether the U.S. is having a labor resurgence. Its union membership rate stood at 10% in 2022, but Hollywood workers are in a unique situation. The advent of generative AI has pushed VFX and Hollywood workers to be concerned about the value of their existence in the workplace as studios embrace using the emerging technology. Yeah. And hate to break it to them, that technology is going to get infused into the process. and it'll keep getting enhanced. And the research scientists that develop this AI, which aren't necessarily going to be visual effects classically trained, um, I would refer to them as software and arts engineers, because they have to know how to utilize the software that creates these special effects. Um, the the software, the AI, the generative AI, is going to be tapped into the equivalent of an API in graphic design programs, and all you'll have to do is type out a phrase, and they'll generate the same thing that in minutes that takes hours for a VFX human to do. Except that there's going to be more care and feeding in the work product done by VFX artists, humans. Again, that said, though, I think that AI provides a valuable benefit. But instead of paying the people the same amount or more because they're aware and capable of utilizing AI, the employer is going to say, well, we can use AI to make you more efficient so I can pay you less, when that's not really the nature of what employment should be. If I can get done in 20 hours what somebody else gets done in 40 hours, I should still get 40 hours worth of pay because I'm good at my job. I shouldn't have to suffer financially. Because there are people that they're good at their job and they can demand more money, but there are people out there that can't do that kind of a thing and just strike off on their own and get enough work. And it's feast or famine when you're self-employed. So really what needs to take place is, depending on it, particularly white collar work, you're paid to do a job, not just work 40 hours. And you do the gig, whatever it might be. Whereas other jobs you are paid to work 40 hours. Just a different mindset about things. And it's all really about work-life balance and compensation for your capabilities as an employee. Workers can see the value of having a seat at the table when working conditions and reward structures are in flux. Erica Groshen, a labor economist at Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations, wrote in an email to Quartz. In this new world for Hollywood production, such negotiations between employers and workers will likely be pivotal in shaping the structure of jobs going forward. I don't know. They're talking about unionization drives at Starbucks and Amazon, both of which can be automated to a fantastic degree. I don't see unionization drives being long-term successful in those areas. The problem for Starbucks in particular is that their brand is basically tied to the baristas that represent Starbucks. They don't have much in terms of automation in their enterprise. But I can see Starbucks going, I can automate all of this, and they can
Yeah,
spin up.
weren't they a company that was automating some of their stuff, or am I getting it mixed up with something else?
They have some automation, but largely, from my understanding, is they still have baristas and stuff like that. And the same thing stands with Amazon warehouse workers. More and more can be automated. There's a huge contingent that's automated. The only problem is, in terms of automation, human workers have greater fidelity with their hands to pick and pull and pack. And that's the saving grace for a union at Amazon. But as soon as technology comes out where it's a robot that has the ability to do that, game over for humans. Because it's really hard for a robot right now to have the fidelity to pick up odd shaped dynamic shaped items from multiple areas. Usually they're purpose built. You want to pick up something really tiny, you have a tiny little gripper. You want to pick up something flat, then you have like a suction gripper, etc., etc. It's purpose built. But the moment that somebody designs something that it has that great fidelity, humans are in deep trouble. And that's what this AI stuff is doing. It's fine motor skills. It's replicating what humans have done. And it never sleeps. It's constantly evolving. I think everybody is in a bit of trouble regarding this. And I'm not doomsaying, I'm not sitting there saying it's the end of the world because of AI. But it's certainly at the forefront of news perpetually. You almost can't
And
go a
there was
day.
another article with essentially that heading today.
Yeah. Yeah. I could probably, I want to be able to do this more often, like go through the news throughout the day that gets aggregated into ohmTown and talk with people about the news. But it's tough for me to do it right now because of what I do when I'm not mayor of ohmTown. So just keep that in mind, folks. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe here on Twitch and on YouTube and the podcast. Download the podcast, leave a review. We're actually done for today in terms of articles. We always bring us back to Main Street. I mash that button and we get a whole new list of news. WeWork expresses substantial doubt about staying in business. I didn't even realize it was still in business.
I didn't either, which might be the problem. They must have put stuff out on the sidewalk.
Huh. Subtle. That actually slipped by me for a good 30 seconds.
What about the ISS that's more polluted than most American homes?
Oh, that does not sound good. Well, they obviously don't have teenagers in space, but because that really makes American homes toxic. So that was funnier in my head. I don't know what's going on with the AI, but I'll let it slide. There was an Ohio vote today. I don't know what all is the final outcome of that, but the Republicans in Ohio put an emergency vote in to change from majority vote to requiring 60%.
It failed.
And so it failed, as in it got a no, right? That was the winning vote, was no, which meant
That's my understanding.
all that Ohioans need right now would be a majority vote in this coming election to change the state constitution to enumerate abortion in their founding documents. So, because what was going on was, from my understanding, is the Republicans had said that they wanted to change it to 60%, because right now in Ohio, 58% support the idea of enumerating it in the Constitution.
So that 60% number was just completely random.
No, yeah, it was, statistically insignificant and had no bearing on this particular emergency election. Yeah, this is the only thing that was done too, so it was quite fascinating. Penn Entertainment sells Barstool Sports back to the founder, Dave Portnoy, and Penn Entertainment is going to spin up ESPN Bets. So this is a gambling thing. Let's see. Well, that's cool. FDA grants approval for the first ever pill to tackle postpartum depression. This is insidious. Postpartum depression tends to sneak up on the other people that are around, like a person who's suffering from postpartum depression. They feel it, they know it, but but the people around them are going, oh, well, they're just a little blue or whatever. It's tough to be a parent or whatever, but it's much worse than that. So a good pill to try and fix the issue, so to speak. Let's see what else. Yeah, I don't know.
Mostly political stuff, it looks like.
Yeah. And tech. So Apple still doesn't need RCS, but the latest update brings it closer to being suitable for iPhone. tvOS 17 Beta 5 references iPhone models that don't exist. That's always interesting. We'll talk about all of this and more tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that tries to keep me out of trouble.
It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it.
I agree.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. Good night, ohmTown citizens. Bye-bye.